Hey, what's up guys? Quick video on settings for God of War on the PS4 Pro. This is what I'm currently using. I was in game mode initially and have ventured into CinePro. The game is pretty amazing and pretty flexible, but I do want that extra motion that some of us do like and some of us do hate. For those of you that don't like the soap opera effect or motion interpolation, you guys can just skip this video. A lot of you guys love it. So I'm messing around with it a little bit. What I do like about this game, though, is the amount of options in the actual game settings options. We'll go through those really, really quick. The text will be a little bit blurry here. Sorry that my camera's not lined up perfectly, but not all that important. So get into your options, settings, video, screen calibration. Now, why I like this calibration, like it and kind of don't like it, is that it doesn't have that symbol that disappears. Now, the left side of the screen on this video looks very, very dark as I'm looking through the camera right now. But as you go down to brightness or even contrast, you will see to the right a vague circle, kind of a circle towards the right of the screen underneath that tree. And it's somewhat available in the middle and available in the dark if you go high. In terms of, actually, if you go low in terms of contrast, you'll see it. There'll be another circle right below that rock. So these have those disappearing symbols so many of those HDR images do have. They don't always behave properly. So for me, my brightness is at 70. Contrast, I go up pretty much until that black, circles in the black, are gone, and as long as those blacks aren't crushed. So I keep it between 88 and 90. That circle's still kind of there, not really, but I also want to make sure that it's visible in terms of the middle and in terms of the right. Now, if you take brightness or contrast all the way up, I kind of want to stay to where the detail is still visible in all the scenes. Now, I know on the camera, the black looks crushed and gone. It isn't that way here. So these are the values that I'm using. 70 on the brightness, contrast at 90. Now these are also for the Sony 900E. They can be used for the Sony 930E, but due to the higher peak brightness, it's going to be different in terms of this menu. As you know, with Sony displays, or any manufacturer for that matter, when you're using HDR, it is going to pump your brightness to max, your extended dynamic range to max, and your gamma to max. I recommend keeping those values at default where the TV or display decides they go, or you'll knock yourself out of HDR and you want to stay in HDR. So I would stay with the brightness, backlight, and all that stuff at max. But for the amount of options this game has, motion blur, I have it too. Typically I don't love motion blur in games. I do like it here. Film grain I hate, so I'm so happy that gives me the option to actually get rid of it. Graphics mode, favor resolution, that's where I like. I have a very large display, so 1080p, and I'm close to it. So 1080p for me is just not attractive, as I'm just too close to such a large TV. So favor resolution, it's great having these options though, guys. Favor resolution or performance mode. Film grain, some of you guys love it, some of you hate it. Motion blur, some of you love it, some of you hate it. It's just so important that console games have some of these features. In the past, the only features you actually ever got basically was gamma, and that was about as good as it got if you were a console gamer, and you were just very, very limited to what you could change. So great addition. Also accessibility. You have a lot of different, ambient camera sway, a lot of different settings here. But what I wanted to show you guys, which is the HUD, fantastic. You can choose it. Immersion mode, where basically the HUD is almost completely gone. These are great if you're taking pictures for Instagram or motion capturing, or you don't want to be reminded every 2 seconds to duck or to crouch. And just excellent settings all around from the developer. Now, getting into the settings that I'm actually using for the actual game is I am in CinePro. Brightness is at max due to default. I like the color at 60. Advanced settings. Contrast I have at 95. Gamma is at its default. Black level is at its default. Black adjust I do like to keep on to give it a little bit of a stronger outline around the edges. Advanced contrast enhancer. This one, actually, the game is strong enough and looks good enough to where if you want to turn it on, it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't break it up. It doesn't make any dithering or any extra aliasing. I don't love the effect, as it can make things look a little bit too inky in the wrong spots. It can crush. So I have it at off, but feel free to keep this on probably medium or low. Auto local dimming I always have on high. Extended dynamic range I always have on high in regards to HDR. I do not keep it on non-HDR content. Color at 60, hue at 0. Color temperature I do have at neutral. It can be a very warm game at times, so I do like the neutral look to it. Advanced color temperature I don't mess with. Live color is interesting. It doesn't change the tone much in terms of its actual color. There's times where live color actually acts like an advanced contrast at times. Low doesn't do much. Medium actually puts the brightness up a little bit, and high seems to dim it a little bit. So I'm keeping live color at medium. I do like to use it on occasion, as long as it doesn't push red. On some HDR content, it does get really, really saturated. On some, it makes no difference. It just enhances the brightness. On others, it does nothing. I like it on medium. It does add a little bit of peak brightness to the image. Clarity, sharpness, I have at 50. I don't use reality creation on anything that is not at least 1080p. Some of you guys love this. You can play with it. To me, it adds too many artifacts for especially this type of game. I keep all the noise reductions off. Smooth gradation is one that some of you guys love. If you look into the skybox on some games, it smooths things out horizontally, but tends to create artifacting vertically in clouds. At least that's my experience with it. I use it for movies. I do not use it for gaming. Motion, this is the one that's always controversial. I have it at custom. I have my smoothness at 2, clearness at minimum, and Cinemotion I have at medium. All these settings can be put up higher. They will cause artifacting. That is the trade-off. I found this to be the best balance for me. Video options, I have everything at auto. Now, when we do these settings videos, guys, this is all I'm really doing is sharing what I use and what I'm using right now. It's not a right, it's not a wrong, and same with the sliders that you see for the HDR. A lot of people have been saying there's only one way to do it. There's only the right, there's the wrong. It doesn't really matter. Do what you think looks good. All I'm really doing with this is sharing it with you, and in the comments, share back with me what you're using. Like you all, I switch these settings up all the time. I just find game mode to be a mode I use primarily in first-person shooters, especially competitive, but I like to get into a more cinematic camera when I'm in a game like this. I do like the motion that's involved. I do enjoy getting out of... I use almost every preset on my display, but I do enjoy the way this game looks with the motion. It just gives it that 240 hertz kind of feel, and I'm just really enjoying it. So those are my settings for God of War at the present moment. I may change them if I get into a different environment, but that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave in the comments what you guys are using for God of War and if you're enjoying it. And I appreciate it as always. Thank you. Take care.